A cop stops a car for traveling faster than the posted speed limit. Since he's in a good mood that day, he decides he might give the fellow a break and write him out a warning instead of a ticket. So, he asks the man his name. Fred, the driver replies. Fred what? The officer asks. Just Fred, the man responds. When the officer presses him for a last name, the man tells him that he used to have a last name but lost it. The officer thinks he has a mental case on his hands, but he has a long shift ahead and he's bored, so he goes along with it. Tell me, Fred, how did you lose your last name? The man replies, it's a long story, so stay with me. I was born Fred Dingaling. I know, funny last name. The kids used to tease me all the time. So I stayed to myself. I studied hard and got good grades. When I got older, I realized that I wanted to be a doctor. I went through college, medical school, internship, residency, finally got my degree, so I was Fred Dingaling, MD. After a while I got bored being a doctor, so I decided to go back to school. Dentistry was my dream. Got all the way through school, got my degree, so I was now Fred Dingaling, MD, DDS. Got bored doing dentistry, so I started fooling around with my assistant. She gave me VD. So, I was Fred Dingaling, MD, DDS with VD. Well, the ADA found out about the VD, so they took away my DDS, so I was Fred Dingaling, MD with VD. Then the AMA found out about the ADA taking away my DDS because of the VD, so they took away my MD, leaving me as Fred Dingaling with VD. Then the VD took away my Dingaling. So now, I'm just Fred. The officer walked away in tears, laughing.
A young farm couple, Homer and Darlene, got married and just couldn't seem to get enough lovin'. In the morning, before Homer left the house for the fields, they made love. When Homer came back from the fields, they made love. And again at bedtime, they made love. The problem was their nooner. It took Homer a half hour to travel home and another half hour to return to the fields, and he just wasn't getting enough work done. Finally Homer asked the town doctor what to do. Homer, said the doctor, just take your rifle out to the field with you, and when you're in the mood, fire off a shot into the air. That will be Darlene's signal to come out to you. Then you won't lose any field time. They tried Doc's advice, and it worked well for a while. Homer came back to the doctor's office. What's wrong? Asked the document. Didn't my idea work? Oh, it worked real good, said Homer. Whenever I was in the mood, I fired off a shot like you said, and Darlene come running. We'd find a secluded place, make love, and then she'd go back home again. Good, Homer. So what's the problem? Asked the document. I ain't seen her since hunting season started. 90-year-old George went for his annual physical. All of his tests came back with normal results. Dr. Don said, George, everything looks great physically. How are you doing mentally and emotionally? Are you at peace with yourself, and do you have a good relationship with your God? George replied, God and me are tight. He knows I have poor eyesight, so he's fixed it so that when I get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, poof, the light goes on when I pee, and then, poof, the light goes off when I'm done. Wow, commented Dr. Darns. That's incredible. A little later in the day, Dr. Darns called George's wife. Thelma, he said, George is just fine. Physically, he's great. But I had to call because I'm in awe of his relationship with God. Is it true that he gets up during the night and poof, the light goes on in the bathroom, and then poof, the light goes off? Thelma exclaimed. That old fool! He's been peeing in the refrigerator again.
First-year students at medical school were receiving their first anatomy class with a real dead human body. They all gathered around the surgery table with the body covered in a white sheet. The professor started the class by telling them, in medicine, it is necessary to have two important qualities as a doctor. The first is that you should not be disgusted by anything involving the human body. The professor pulled back the sheet, stuck his finger in the anus of the corpse, withdrew it and stuck it in his mouth. Go ahead and do the same thing, he told his students. The students initially freaked out, hesitated for several minutes, but eventually took turns sticking a finger in the anus of the corpse and sucking on it. When everyone finished, the professor looked at the class and told them, the second most important quality is observation. I stuck in my middle finger but sucked on my index finger. Now learn to pay attention.
A general visits an army hospital to check on the conditions and inspire the troops. It's World War I, trench warfare is living hell, and the men could really use some inspiration. The general starts talking to the wounded soldiers. He goes up to the first man and says, "What brings you in here, son?" The soldier replies, "Sir, I got dysentery in the trenches, something awful." The general asks him, "How are they caring for you in here?" And the soldier replies, "Well, sir, every day the nurses put a cool cloth on my head and they clean my behind with a soft brush." The general asks, "Is there anything else we can do for you?" And the soldier says, "No, sir, the nurses are doing the best they can." The general seems satisfied, thanks him for his service and moves on to the next man. The general approaches the second man's bed and asks, "What brings you in here, son?" The soldier replies somewhat embarrassed, "Sir, I got gonorrhea from a woman while I was on leave." The general laughs and says, "It happens to the best of us, son. How are they caring for you in here?" And the soldier replies, "Well, sir, every day the nurses put a cool cloth on my head and they clean my privates with a soft brush." The general asks, "Is there anything else we can do for you?" And the soldier says, "No, sir, the nurses are doing the best they can." The general once again seems satisfied, thanks him for his service and moves on to the next man. The general approaches the third man's bed and asks, "What brings you in here, son?" The soldier tells him, "Sir, I got strep throat in the trenches." The general asks, "How are they caring for you in here?" And the soldier replies, "Well, sir, every day the nurses put a cool cloth on my head and they clean my throat with a soft brush." The general asks, "Is there anything else we can do for you?" "Actually, sir, there is one thing," said the soldier. "I'd like to be the first one to use the brush."
Some have counseled me to go to a long-term care home. I was not sure about this. So I decided to ask my long-time doctor. So, I awaited my next visit and I asked him, "How do you determine whether or not an older person should be put in a long-term care home?" "Well," he said, "we fill up a bathtub, then we offer a teaspoon, a teacup and a bucket to the person to empty the bathtub." "Oh, I understand," I said. "A normal person would use the bucket because it is bigger than the spoon or the teacup." "No," he said. "A normal person would pull the plug." "Do you want a bed near the window? Are you going to pass this on? Or do you want the bed next to mine?"
There are two identical twin brothers that live together. One happens to be a well-respected dentist, and the other can't seem to keep a job. Instead of actively looking for work, he likes to sit around at home. One Saturday, the dentist is hungry, and puts his brother on the spot. He tells him to get off his lazy behind and go get them some food. After some protests, the lazy brother takes the car and leaves for the store. In the meantime, the dentist takes a nap on his day off. He turns off his phone so he won't be interrupted. About 30 minutes later, the lazy brother gets into a head-on collision in the intersection by the grocery store. His vital signs are fading. He's unconscious and barely moving. An ambulance picks him up and rushes him to the hospital. He ends up in the emergency room under observation, but his condition is critical. They try calling his dentist brother, but he doesn't pick up because his phone is off. The dentist wakes to a knock on the door. Suspecting a solicitor, he ignores it, but the knocking continues. Eventually, he resolves to get up and yell at the person at the door. When he does, he reveals the Grim Reaper. He is just as he appears in movies, a full skeleton underneath a tattered cloak. The Grim Reaper swears. "Oh no! This always happens with identical twins." "What do you mean?" asks the dentist. "Well, if you must know, your brother was in a critical car accident, and I've come to take him to the underworld. I'm afraid his time on Earth has ended. I'll take my leave now." The dentist is noticeably upset. He says, "Wait. Isn't there some way I can challenge you for my brother's life? After all, you made the mistake. Certainly there must be a way I can bargain for his life." The Grim Reaper asks, "What do you have in mind?" The dentist thinks. "How about a challenge? If I beat you, you let my brother go free." The Grim Reaper laughs. "I will beat you in any challenge." "What challenge do you propose?" The dentist smiles. "I propose we see who has the cleanest teeth. 5 minutes of brushing each, then we decide." "Very well," says the Grim Reaper, who makes his way to the bathroom. Once there, he pulls back his tattered cloak to reveal his skull. It's glistening. He takes a toothbrush from the bathroom, loads it with toothpaste, and brushes. After 5 minutes, the shiniest teeth anyone has ever seen glisten and make the room bright. The Grim Reaper grins. "You are foolish human. But you are entitled to your chance." The dentist takes another toothbrush, loads it with toothpaste, and starts brushing like a madman. When his 5 minutes are up, he spits out the paste. He smiles. It's unbelievable. The shine from the dentist's teeth is so beautiful that he can see the Grim Reaper's reflection in his perfectly clean teeth. The winner is obvious. The Grim Reaper hangs his head in shame. "You win, human. This time. Your brother will live." He disappears in a puff of smoke. At the same instant, the bedridden brother wakes up in the hospital. Not only is he uninjured, he seems perfectly healthy. Suddenly, the phone by his bed rings. It's his brother, the dentist. He picks up. "Hey bro. You'll never believe what happened. Apparently, I went out to the market and got hit by a car. They say I almost died." The dentist smiles on the phone and says, "That's interesting, bro. Today you might say that I also had a brush with death."
There once were twin boys, age 6, that had developed extreme personalities. One was a pessimist and the other a total optimist. Concerned, their parents took them to a psychiatrist. First, the psychiatrist treated the pessimist. Trying to brighten his outlook, the psychiatrist took him to a room filled with toys. But instead of yelping with delight, the little boy burst into tears. "What's the matter?" the psychiatrist asked. "Don't you want to play with any of the toys?" "Yes," the little boy bawled, "but if I did I'd only break them." Next, the psychiatrist treated the optimist. Trying to dampen his outlook, the psychiatrist took him to a room piled to the ceiling with horse manure. But instead of wrinkling his nose in disgust, the optimist climbed to the top of the pile and began gleefully digging out scoop after scoop with his bare hands. "What are you doing?" the baffled psychiatrist asked. The little boy replied, "With all this manure, there must be a pony in here somewhere." Hey, awesome viewers! Just a quick note to say thanks for being part of this journey. I use an AI voice for my jokes, so bear with me. Your positive vibes keep the laughs coming. If you have suggestions, share them kindly. Let's keep the good vibes rolling. Did these jokes light up your day? Don't miss out on more laughter. Hit that subscribe button and join our fun-loving community. Click subscribe and let's keep the good vibes rolling together. Don't forget to ring the notification bell for a daily dose of humor. Thanks for watching.